Good afternoon. I'd like to call the meeting of the Board of Public Utilities for the City of Santa Rosa to order. We have a roll call, please.
Board Member Wright. Board Member Watts.
Here.
Board Member Walsh.
Here.
Board Member Badenfort.
Here.
Board Member Grable.
Here.
Vice Chair Arnone.
Here.
And Chair Adoti.
Here.
Let the record show that all of the Board of Public Utilities is present with the exception of Board Member Wright.
Thank you. Good afternoon again. A reminder, please, to have your microphone on mute when you're not speaking. Please put away your cell phones and personal computers. At this time, I am going to read a proclamation for Chris Grable, and afterwards we'll have board comments and Mr. Grable's comments. So the proclamation reads as follows. Whereas Chris Grable was originally appointed to the Board of Public Utilities by City Council member Jack Tibbetts in February of 2017 and reappointed in February of 2021, and whereas during Mr. Grable's 6 years of service with the Board of Public Utilities, he has provided excellent leadership, support, and guidance to the Santa Rosa Water Department. And whereas Mr. Grable has served on many subcommittees of the board, including the Budget Review Subcommittee, Water Conservation Subcommittee, and various ad hoc subcommittees. And whereas Mr. Grable chaired the Water Conservation Subcommittee during the development and finalization of Santa Rosa Water's 2020 Urban Water Management Plan and Water Shortage Contingency Plan, facilitating numerous meetings and helping to incorporate public comment on these critically important planning documents. And whereas Mr. Grable served on the Agricultural Ad Hoc Committee, working tirelessly to strengthen relationships with our agricultural customers, leading to the development of a new interruptible agricultural reuse agreement and agriculture reuse fees that were supported by the overwhelming majority of Santa Rosa's water agricultural customers. And whereas Mr. Grable served on the Landscape Specs Ad Hoc Committee, which developed a landscaping contract that incorporated best management practices and Russian River-friendly landscaping guidelines, and now serves as a model for future landscaping services. And whereas Mr. Grable recognized the board's responsibility to make tough decisions regarding funding infrastructure maintenance, repair, and replacement, and he thoughtfully made such decisions so that Santa Rosa Water may continue to provide safe and reliable water distribution and wastewater collection, treatment, and reuse to its ratepayers. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Public Utilities of the City of Santa Rosa does hereby recognize, commend, and express its sincere appreciation to Chris Grable for his 6 years of dedicated service to the community of Santa Rosa, and I am happy to have signed the proclamation. So, Chris, I know when city councils change, it's always difficult because you never know what kind of changes are going to be made on any of the boards and commissions, but it's been a pleasure working with you. You have always been a quick study on all the water issues. You have always asked thoughtful questions and have comments for staff to make sure everybody's thinking outside the box when they need to. We're going to miss you on the board and wish you much good luck, but have enjoyed your 6 years here, so thank you. Other board, Vice Chair Arnone.
Thank you. Chris, it has been a pleasure serving with you. I've known Chris ever since since his father and I coached him in under-6 soccer. And so seeing someone mature into such a community leader and just a thinker and a doer has been a real pleasure. So it's been a pleasure working with you, and I look forward to crossing paths in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Board Member Badenfort.
Well, I just wanted to, one, express incredible gratitude as a fellow board member. The expertise and the knowledge that you brought to this board and to the city were critical. And I learned so much from you, not only in how to think through the impact of our services and our products and our programs very practically and tactically, but also to keep us on, to keep us remembering what is the intention of our work here. And so I will miss you. I will still see you. I am both proud and grateful to call you a friend and to have been able to serve alongside of you these past years. Thank you.
Board Member Watts?
Thank you. It's hard for me to imagine you not being on this board with us. I think I have been able to get to know you as a person, not just a board member, and you're a fantastic human being on top of being a great member to this board and an admirable father, watching you with your kids over the years. But I think from the board perspective, we have to make sure that we always keep some of your thoughts in mind. You always brought environmental justice and equity up in times when we might have forgotten about it, and I think that that's going to be something that we're going to make sure that your legacy is here, and just really appreciate your time with us here, and as a board member and a friend. And I know this isn't goodbye, but I hope you'll come back and keep us on our toes.
Board Member Walsh?
Chris, I appreciate being together, even though it was only for a couple of years. We focused on things that made a difference, spent more time working diligently on them than looking at the past victories and accomplishments, and you did a great job. So I hope we'll be working again in the future. I don't know what we'll be working on, but we need you to be involved and be influential. So thank you.
Director Burke?
Thank you, Board Member Grable. On behalf of the Santa Rosa Water Department, I want to thank you for your leadership, your support, the way you always embraced information from staff. You asked us tough questions and made us better. I really appreciate your interest and always remembering or reminding us to consider climate change, where things are going, how we can look to the future to really have a resilient system, water supply, sewer collection, wastewater treatment, reuse. And it was always fun to hear your stories of when you were up on the hill doing plant surveys and the work that you did. Your tie to the water department will last a long time. We really, really appreciate all of your leadership, and thank you so much.
Board Member Grable, would you like to say a few words?
Just thank you so much, everyone. And if I break down in tears, it's because I watch, really emotional children's shows all day with my 18-month-old, and I'm a fragile dad now. But thank you so much for your words and really for what you have all taught me in this process. I think a lot of public service can be very arduous, to say the least, taking a lot of sometimes very passionate but misinformed comments from a lot of people. And one thing about this board is I don't think that we've had that experience as much as other elected and appointed bodies. And so really that's given the opportunity for some very in-depth and thoughtful conversations and just an ongoing dialogue between appointed officials and staff, for the most part, that just really getting into policy and really nerdy stuff about water and science and climate and budgets. I don't know that many people get that opportunity to have that just ongoing candid dialogue and sharing expertise and in a respectful environment where, for better or for worse, we don't have many public comments. So that has been my experience on this board, and I'm so grateful that I've gotten to participate and give service. Chair Galvin, Dan, I wanted to thank you for how you have taught me how to be an impartial and professional leader. Your leadership, your procedural acumen, everything has just been beyond compare. And I'm grateful, and I've learned a lot from you, so thank you. And Vice Chair Arnone, as he said, he taught me both soccer when I was probably more interested in running at the trees and counting flowers with my friends. And so the patience you have shown me there and the patience you have shown me here, because I can be a pain in the butt sometimes, I'm truly grateful for. And your knowledge in closed session, especially of potential liabilities and litigation, it's been eye-opening and really, again, public service is so difficult, and to learn from folks with that expertise is just invaluable, so thank you. And Board Member Vattenford, I can't say enough about what I've learned from you, and your mastery of public and government affairs and policy has just been, hugely beneficial to me, and I'm just deeply grateful for your friendship and the expertise that you've imparted. Okay. Board Member Watts, I want to thank you for everything you've taught me. Specifically about how we have to come back to what's the reality on the ground, for low-income families. I apologize. Who, when you get the water bill every month, and I've been there, it is really hard, and we're looking at metadata. We have a $177 million budget, and it can get lost what that means for a low-income family with children, someone in a marginalized community, a recently annexed community, whatever it is. You have always prioritized that, and I have deep respect, and I've learned that needs to be a priority always from you, so thank you. Board Member Walsh, our candid conversations and you just teaching me about Mitigation Fee Act and rate setting and public fee schedules, it was so enlivening and enlightening to have those conversations with you the few times that we were able to do that in the short time that I served with you. So I just want to say thank you. I really enjoyed those conversations, and took a lot away, from them. So thank you. And Board Member Wright, he's not here, but I do want to thank him and say, having that expertise of someone who has worked and has the industry knowledge and has that expertise of working within the department and then being on the board, there's just things that cannot be duplicated there that, just are invaluable. So thank you to Board Member Wright. And Director Burke, first you and then to all staff. Again, the dialogue, the expertise, but specifically your leadership has really been beyond compare, I think, in the history of this department, and especially in the recent history, and has just brought such a great culture of innovation, of respect, professionalism, that I wish it were not so rare, but your leadership is beyond compare, really, and I'm grateful to have learned from you and been able to, again, give service and try to support your leadership wherever I can. And to all staff, I mean, the expertise, the level of depth and professionalism and real forethought and the long game, the modeling, the proxy modeling, everything that our staff brings to every presentation is, I wish every public institution in this country could operate that way and could mirror the expertise and the effort of Santa Rosa Water staff, because I think this world would be such a better place if everyone learned from the example that you give. So thank you so much, and it's been an honor to serve with you. One last person I want to thank is, he's not here, but Board Member Emeritus Dick Dowd. What an honor it was to serve with him and to learn from his tenure and wealth of experience. And as Director Burke alluded to, when Board Member Dowd was pushing forward option 3, I think it was, against all odds to look at running a pipeline through 1,700 private parcels, crossing the Russian River twice, 4 jurisdictions, just seemed like the biggest hopes and dreams, crazy idea ever. When he was going through those very long meetings with hundreds of people and doing all that, I was a teenager doing the species richness surveys on the transects along the pipeline route, and sort of disgruntled, this pure, amazing Mayakama Mountain countryside was going to be disrupted by this pipeline. Well, that was not an oil pipeline. It was a pipeline ensuring clean, renewable energy for generations to come to the biggest geothermal field in the world. So to come full circle and be able to participate and learn from him and have that perspective was also just something I'll never forget. So I hope I can convey to him, but others can convey. I'm also deeply grateful to Board Member Dowd. So again, thank you for the opportunity to serve with you all. It's been an honor.
Thank you again for your comments. Before I hand you your proclamation, I do have to open it up for public comments on item 2.1. If you wish to make a comment via Zoom, please raise your hand. If you're dialing in via telephone, please dial *9 to raise your hand.
Chair Galvin, I see no hands being raised via Zoom and no public comments from council chamber.
Okay, then that will conclude item 2.1. Chris, here's your proclamation. Much good luck to you. All right, we will now move to item 3.1, which is the administration of the oaths of office for the newly appointed and reappointed board members. Secretary Manis, are you doing the honors?
Thank you, Chair Galvin. We can start with you. So if you want to come to the front of the dais. This is your oath of office for the Board of Public Utilities. Please repeat after me. I state your name. Do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California, that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter. Thank you, Chair Galvin. Welcome back. Board Member Watts. Board Member Watts, I'm going to have you step a little bit closer to me so we can hear you. I didn't have you grab the mic, Chair Galvin, so we'll go back and forth with the microphone. Please repeat after me for your oath of office for the Board of Public Utilities. I state your name.
I, Mary Watts,
Do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear and affirm
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully
and that I will well and faithfully
discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter.
discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter.
Thank you, Board Member Watts. Vice Chair Arnone. Thank you. This is for your oath of office for the Board of Public Utilities. Please repeat after me. I, William Arnone,
I, William Arnone,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States of America
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
the duties upon which I'm about to enter.
the duties upon which I am about to enter.
Thank you, Vice Chair Arnone. And now I'd like to call up Robin Bartholow. Hi, Robin. Thank you. This is your oath of office for your Board of Public Utilities member. Please repeat after me. I, Robin Bartholow,
I, Robin Bartholow,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
the duties upon which I'm about to enter.
on which I'm about to enter.
Thank you, Robin. Welcome to the Board of Public Utilities. Please have a seat at the dais.
We'll now ask new board member Bartholow to join us up here on the dais.
Chair Galvin, if I could.
Yes.
We would like to ask all the board members if they would stand in front of the dais for just a picture. We'd appreciate that. And then you can go to your comments if that's okay.
That'd be fine. right, we are back. I'll open it up at this time if there are any board members that wish to make any comments. In particular, I'll put Board Member Bartholow on the spot and let her introduce herself to us.
Okay, well, I just realized how to turn on the microphone, so that's my first important act here. Thank you so much, Chairman Galvin. I am honored to be part of this board. It was wonderful to hear Chris Graybill talk about what an honor it was for him and the passion he has for the BPU, and I look forward to working with all of you. Your leadership and community service is admirable, and I will do my best to be a helpful player on the board.
Very good, thank you. Any other board member questions, comments? All right, then I will open it up for public comments on item 3.1. If you wish to make a comment via Zoom, please raise your hand. If you're dialing in via telephone, please dial *9 to raise your hand. Do we have anyone?
Chair Galvin, there are no public comments or hands being raised via Zoom or in council chamber.
All right, may we have a roll call vote, please, to formalize the newly established board member?
Certainly. Board Member Wright is absent. Board Member Watts?
Here.
Board Member Walsh?
Aye.
Board Member Bartholow?
Here.
Board Member Badenfort?
Here.
Vice Chair Arnone? Chair Galvin?
Aye.
Let the record show that all board members are present with the exception of Board Member Wright.
Thank you. Item 4 is statements of abstention by board members. Hearing none. We have no study session. We have the minutes from January 19th of 2023. So I will open it up for public comments on item 6.1. If you wish to make a comment via Zoom, please raise your hand. If you're dialing in via telephone, please dial *9 to raise your hand. Secretary Manis?
There are no hands being raised via Zoom and no public comments from council chamber.
Very good. That'll take care of the minutes. They'll be entered. We'll now move to item 7.1, which is our water supply update. Director Burke?
Thank you, Chair Galvin and members of the board. As mentioned, item 7.1 is our water supply update, and Colin Close, Senior Water Resources Planner, will be making the presentation.
Thank you very much, Director Burke. Just be one moment and I'll have my screen shared. Excellent. Thank you very much, and good afternoon, Chair Galvin and members of the board. This is your water supply update for the month. Deputy Director Martin is unavailable today, so I'm stepping into his shoes to provide you with this information. So, of course, the good news is we have received quite a bit of rain, so I think we're all sighing a bit of relief. Lake Pillsbury is currently at about 57,000 acre feet, and that's about 176% of its storage curve at this time of the year. It is losing a little bit of water over the last 7 days, about 100 acre feet, and it is releasing at about 50 cubic feet per second. So right now, going through the Potter Valley Powerhouse is about 45 to 50 cubic feet per second. So quite an improvement from where we were this time last month. When we look to Lake Mendocino, you can see that it is over the standard storage curve. You know, the dotted line that's on the bottom there, outlining the shaded area, that's the standard curve for water supply versus the flood control pool. And as you know, with a major deviation, there has been permission allowed to store an additional 11,650 acre feet. And so they're taking well advantage of that. Now, of course, if we do get more storms, they'll have to be careful of that. You can see right about in the middle of January, that the Army Corps did release some water. So we reached a peak there around the week of January 18th, and some water was released, just to make sure that they weren't impinging too far into that flood pool. But with that major deviation, they are able to store more water, which is very beneficial for that lake. It has over 80,000 acre feet. It's about 118% of the storage curve. Over the last 7 days, it did lose about 1,400 acre feet, and it has some releases of about 161 cubic feet per second. But overall, as you can see, it's looking very good. If we do get more rains, of course, they'll be able to manage those using that forecast-informed reservoir operation to make sure that they maximize storage in the flood pool without risking loss of flood control. Then we'll go to Lake Sonoma, and of course this is the major source of our drinking water, and it is also looking very, very good at about 97% of storage capacity in the water supply pool. Of course, the flood supply pool is above that. So it has about almost 238,000 acre feet. The top of that water supply pool is 245,000 acre feet, so it's very close. Over the last 7 days, it gained about 1,600 acre feet, so we're still seeing runoff even though the rains aren't coming in. So that watershed is, you've probably heard it described before, as kind of flashy. So it absorbs a lot of water, and a lot of water can run off over time from that. So it is releasing about 155 cubic feet per second. There is also the ability to use forecast-informed reservoir operations here as well to be able to allow for some additional storage in that flood pool. So if we do get more water and we get up into that flood pool, we're still in good shape. And of course, the Army Corps will be managing that with that minor deviation in mind. So that's all very good news. So we're very happy about that. So in terms of water supply, the messaging that we're now doing in terms of reach out to our community and helping our customers and community understand water supply is to make sure folks know, yes, we have recovered after having been at historic lows, in particular the last 2 years, very, very historically low levels. We are working with Sonoma Water and all the regional water suppliers and partners on generating some shared messaging. We want to focus on thanking our customers in our region. Over the last 18 months, our community achieved an 18% reduction in water use. And this, of course, comes after years of improvements in water use efficiency. So tremendous effort on our community's part, and we're really thankful. So we really very much appreciate what our community has done. And of course, as you know, we're also starting to work on our own water supply resiliency plan. So we are really appreciative to the community. We also want the community to know that we're doing our part to prepare for the future as well. We are also launching our I Heart Tap Water campaign for February. So this is focused on why choosing tap water is a great choice for our customers and for our community. And part of this will include spotlighting some of our employees, telling some of their stories and their backgrounds, their passions, what they do for the city of Santa Rosa in terms of water and water supply. And so that's a really fun part of this. Also, we'll be sending bill inserts to all of our customers, letting them know that this campaign is on. And we have social media posts, we'll have radio spots, and this is culminating in reusable water bottle giveaways. And as you can see, you all have a reusable water bottle there in front of you. So these are going to be giveaways for customers who are interested. So for customers who want to be considered for this, they should go to srcity.org/tap, T-A-P, tap, and they can request a bottle. We really want folks to realize that tap water it's healthy, it's good for the environment, and with these water bottles, we reduce the amount of unnecessary waste of one-use plastic bottles. More good news for you. You may remember that we participate in the Groundwater Sustainability Agency for the Santa Rosa Plain. So we have council members involved in that. We have staff members involved in that effort. After quite a bit of work, the Groundwater Sustainability Agency submitted their plan for groundwater sustainability plan back 1 year ago in January. And the good news is that it was approved for all 3 basins in our region. There is a groundwater basin in Petaluma, one in the Sonoma Valley, and of course the Santa Rosa Valley. So really tremendous effort. We congratulate and thank all of the folks who worked together on this, from the board of the GSA, the advisory committee, the GSA staff, the staff from other agencies who all worked together to make sure this occurred. It does have some recommendations for future updates, but there were no changes needed in this plan. This is highly unusual. Of the over 100 groundwater sustainability plans that have been submitted, only 11 have received this designation. So almost 1/4 of those that were approved are in our region. So really tremendous. We're just so blessed with having folks who are really adept at this work. And as you all know, we've been looking at groundwater for many, many years in our area, and that has really paid off. Let me just see if there was anything else. No, that was the last slide. So there you have it for the water supply update, and I'm happy to take any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Mr. Close. We'll open it up now for any board member questions or comments regarding the water supply update. Can't see board member Walsh, but I don't see a hand raised. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Go right ahead.
I just wanted to thank the deputy director for the wonderful presentation, and then to encourage the tap water. And sometimes at restaurants, I'll just order Santa Rosa tap 2023. So that's the best thing to drink. Anyway, I appreciate the presentation, and I'm thankful to have as much water as we do now.
Thank you, board member Walsh. Vice Chair Arnone.
I just want to make a comment on how delightful it is to have everybody here in person today and have all the fellow board members here. But there is one thing about it. Mr. Close has the best audio-visual headset of anybody on any Zoom meeting I ever attend. And so he actually sounds better on Zoom than he does in person, I'm sorry to say. But I did understand everything you said, and I appreciate your report. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, at this time, we'll open it up for public comments on item 7.1. If you wish to make a comment via Zoom, please raise your hand. If you're dialing in via telephone, please dial *9 to raise your hand. Secretary Manis?
Chair Galvin, there are no hands being raised via Zoom and no public comments from council chamber.
Thank you. That'll take care of item 7.1. We have 2 matters on the consent calendar. I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar.
So moved.
Mr. Chairman, I move approval of consent calendar.
We'll take that as a motion from board member Walsh and is seconded by board member Watts. Any board member questions or comments regarding the consent calendar? All right, if not, then we'll take public comments on the consent calendar agenda. If you wish to make a comment via Zoom, please raise your hand. If you're dialing in via telephone, please dial *9 to raise your hand. Secretary Manis?
There are no hands being raised via Zoom and no public comments from council chamber.
May we have a roll call vote, please?
Certainly. Board member Watts?
Yes.
Board member Walsh?
Aye.
Board member Bartholow?
Yes.
Board member Badenfort? Aye. Vice Chair Arnone?
Aye.
Chair Galvin?
Aye.
Let the record show that motion passes with 6 affirmative votes and board member Wright absent.
Very good. That'll take care of the consent calendar. We'll now move to item 9.1, a report item. Director Burke?
Thank you, Chair Galvin and members of the board. Item 9.1 is the cooperative agreement for the transfer of raw and partially treated well water between Sonoma County and the City of Santa Rosa. And Sean McNeil, Deputy Director, Environmental Services, will be presenting.
Good afternoon, Chair Galvin, members of the board. I too am very happy to be back in the chamber. Again, I didn't have as nice of a headset as our senior water resources planner, Colin Close, did, but I do appreciate the personal contact. So I'm happy to bring this item to you today. The reason for this agreement is that Sonoma Water is in the process of rehabilitating 3 of their existing wells in the Santa Rosa Plain to help support water supplies in times of drought. The great thing about that they're looking into with these wells is possibly taking water from the Russian River in the winter time and injecting it into these wells in time when water is plenty, and then when it's a drought or restrictions are occurring in the summer and fall months, to pull that water back out. For them to do that process, they need a place to put that additional water. Or not that additional water, excuse me. They need to put the wastewater that comes from managing a well. So this agreement would increase the amount of potable water available for our customers, as well as augment our supplies in times of drought for our recycled water system. All 3 of these wells will require discharging the well water as a condition of operating these municipal wells, and that would be purge water. That could be up to 3 million gallons per purge. That's just part of the process of ensuring that a well is clean and safe to drink. That water is basically groundwater and is perfectly good for reuse into our system. There are other types of water that would come off of these well sites that might be able to be utilized in our recycled water system, including flushing, filter backflush water, and then they'll have a treatment system at the well site to provide chlorine into that water. That system would need to be flushed at the end of the season. After the systems are put together, we would be able to analyze the quality of that water to determine if it fits within our criteria to be injected into our recycled water system. If it is not, then that water would have to go to a treatment plant. And right now there are no accessible sewer systems nearby these 3 well sites, but we do have our reclamation low pressure line adjacent to all 3 of these well sites. And so here's a visual of kind of where these wells sit in the Santa Rosa Plain. The red circles are the locations of the wells. It doesn't show up so well on the screen here, but there's green lines. That's the location of our low pressure recycled water system. And I'll take a look a little bit closer at each of the individual sites. So the Occidental Road well, which is the farthest north, this site, you can see our recycled water line runs right through their treatment plant, their well plant, and so also their aqueduct is nearby. I didn't happen to mention that, but their aqueduct is also right there as well. So they can put the drinking water in there, they can put the water, reject water from the drinking into our recycled water line. Here's the Sebastopol Road well site. This is Highway 12. People need to be reminded, is also called Sebastopol Road in this section. So it is, that's Highway 12 right there, and this is the city's Brown Farm property. And you can see our reclamation line is right next to their well site. And once the project is completed and we have all of the agreements signed, we will probably be coming back to you to get a permanent easement for this property, but that will come at a future date. And then here's the Todd Road well site. This is right there on Todd Road near Llano Road. This is really, it's on adjacent to the California Department of Fish and Wildlife property, but it's really close to our Alpha farm, and that green pipeline that you see there goes straight to our pond on Alpha Farm. The agreement terms are that Sonoma Water would be responsible for all the infrastructure improvements to connect these wells to our system, and that does include any CEQA compliance. Sonoma Water would coordinate with the city before initiating all discharges to make sure that our system was in appropriate stationing and all the valves are appropriate to be able to handle that water. The city would only take water from sources that are approved by our regulators. So if the filter backflush or any of those other types of water were not approved by our regulators to be used for recycled water, we would not allow that in, and this agreement stipulates that. And that the water's not accepted into the reclamation system, they may easily be trucked to our Laguna treatment plant. And since all sites will already have a holding tank available, this would not be terrible if it was a smaller amount of water. The initial well flushing, that could be 3 million gallons, whereas these other types of filter black washes and stuff are in the neighborhood thousands of gallons, so something that could be trucked. So it is the recommendation of the Contract Review Subcommittee and the Water Department that the Board of Public Utilities approve and authorize the chair of the board to sign the cooperative agreement for the transfer of raw and partially treated well water between Sonoma County Water Agency and the City of Santa Rosa. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Deputy Director McNeil. As was mentioned in the recommendation, this matter did come before the Contract Review Subcommittee back on January 25th and received unanimous approval and recommendation to the full board. I'll open it up now for any board member questions or comments regarding this item. All right, then we'll open it up for public comments on item 9.1. If you wish to make a comment via Zoom, please raise your hand. If you're dialing in via telephone, please dial *9 to raise your hand. Secretary Manis?
There are no hands being raised via Zoom and no public comments from council chamber.
Thank you. May we have a roll call vote, please?
I'd like to ask for a motion.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'll make a motion that the Board of
Chairman,
Public
I'd like to
Utilities.
make a motion. So go ahead. I'm sorry, Member Arnone.
Okay.
Please go on.
I'll make a motion that the Board of Public Utilities approve and authorize the chair of the board to sign the cooperative agreement for the transfer of raw and partially treated well water between Sonoma County Water Agency and the City of Santa Rosa.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion by Vice Chair Arnone, seconded by Board Member Walsh. Now we'll take a roll call vote, please.
Board Member Watts?
Aye.
Board Member Walsh?
Aye.
Board Member Bartholow?
Aye.
Board Member Benfort?
Aye.
Vice Chair Arnone?
Aye.
Chair Galvin?
Aye.
Let the record show that vote passed with 6 affirmative votes and Board Member Wright absent.
Thank you. That'll take care of item 9.1. We'll move now to item 9.2. Director Burke?
Thank you, Chair Galvin and members of the board. Item 9.2 is a professional services agreement approval, Woodard and Curran Storm Drain Master Plan. And Claire Myers, our Stormwater and Creeks Manager, will be presenting. Just wanted to remind the board that per a recent charter change, which you will hear about, the board now has some purview over the Stormwater and Creeks program, and so that is why this item is coming before you today. And I'll turn it over to Ms. Myers.
There we go. Thank you very much, Director Burke. Again, I'm Claire Myers. I am the manager of the city's Stormwater and Creeks team. I am very excited to be here today to request your approval on a professional services agreement for a storm drain master plan for the city of Santa Rosa. So as Director Burke alluded to, before I describe the project and the contract in question, I wanted to give you a little background on our team. As you know, until the recent passage of Measure J, the Stormwater and Creeks team fell within the purview of City Council. However, Measure J amended Section 25B of the City Charter to include stormwater systems as within BPU policy, authority, and direction. So as a result, we will now be bringing our items to you for approval, starting with this contract today. You will be seeing a lot of our team in the coming months. We're pretty busy. So I just wanted to give you a pretty brief overview of who we are and the work that we do. And I will be back in, I believe, 2 weeks to give you a more in-depth presentation on our team. So until then, the Stormwater and Creeks team is a team of 11 full-time staff plus interns, and the official mission I put on the slide, and it is making Santa Rosa a better place by enhancing creek health through restoration and community involvement, providing biological and engineering services, and managing stormwater runoff to preserve and restore water quality and minimize flooding. Broadly speaking, our work centers around ensuring that our creeks are healthy and that the city is doing its best to protect the natural environment. Our work is accomplished via numerous paths, some of which I put on the slide. We ensure regulatory compliance pertaining to stormwater. We do outreach and education to members of the community about pollution prevention and creek health and what individuals can do to help. We monitor water quality. We respond to spills. We provide biological and engineering services to projects in the city and to departments in the city. We restore creeks in the city. We run the city's creek stewardship program in coordination with Sonoma Water to help the public understand the benefits of healthy creeks and remove trash from waterways. And finally, and most pertinent to why I'm here today, we ensure that the city's storm drain infrastructure is operational and adequate to prevent and reduce flooding within the city. So something important to note is that unlike the rest of the water department, we are not funded by the water enterprise. We have our own enterprise fund, the Stormwater Assessment, that funds the majority of our work. We get the Stormwater Enterprise funding via an annual charge placed on parcels within the city. And this fund was set up in 1998 as a long-term funding source to support creek restoration, water quality improvements, and drainage improvements. So we brought in about $2.7 million last year to fund the team's work, and the rest of our funding comes from the city's general fund, CIP projects, and grants. So I'm here today to address the city's storm drain infrastructure system. It's an aging system. It has a lot of issues. This map shows the age of storm drain pipes in the city. Red shows pipes that are 60 years or older. Orange, it's a little difficult to see, but orange shows pipes that are 40 to 60 years old. Green is 0 to 40 years, and yellow, the date is unknown. So you can see, a significant portion of the pipes in our system are past their useful life or nearing the end of it. And what does this look like in reality? I've included a few photos of the kinds of issues that we see and the kinds of failing infrastructure. You can see in the top left, we have a utility pipe, a different utility pipe that is punched through a storm drain pipe. In the top center, you can see there are metal pipes that have eroded to the point where the bottom of the pipe doesn't exist anymore. On the top right, we have settlement between different pipe joints causing a separation between the segments, and the bottom are tree roots that are growing right into the pipe. So these are all conditions that reduce the capacity of flow and can result in flooding. So I wanted to also include some recent photos of flooding or photos of recent flooding, because we see some of these even during smaller storms. These are photos from just this last month, the end of December and January. The flood water on the bottom left is on Fulton Road and resulted in one full lane being closed for several days. The other two photos are of private property. And then, adding to all of these problems, the wildfires have really exacerbated the risk of flooding in the city. So, we know the system needs fixing, but we don't currently have the data and the modeling necessary to understand where to best focus our efforts and how to prioritize the projects. So, to address flooding issues and provide essential protection of life and health and safety, I'm here today to request support for a professional services agreement with Woodard & Kern to develop a storm drain master plan. The goal of the master plan is to first fully understand the risk to public safety, property, and infrastructure posed by the current storm drain system, and second, to determine appropriate mitigation measures to protect the public. Our storm drain plan will do several things. It will evaluate the condition of the over 340 miles of storm drain pipe and 17,000 storm drain structures in the city. It will model the system to support drainage review for new projects coming into the city. We'll build an asset registry. We will quantify the costs of replacing the aging infrastructure. We'll rank projects proposed for maintenance and replacement, and we'll identify the funding needs and options for meeting those funding needs. So really, it's essential to determine the best actions for how to mitigate the funding and how to pay for it. To go over our process for selecting a consultant, on October 13th, 2022, our team released a request for proposals soliciting services for the Storm Drain Master Plan. On November 11th, 6 proposals were received, and on November 16th, a review panel met to evaluate those proposals. And that panel consisted of Councilmember Tom Schwedhelm, Sean McNeil, Deputy Director of Environmental Services, me, and Flannery Banks, our Stormwater Assistant Engineer. So proposals were evaluated based on predetermined criteria, responsiveness to the RFP, project team qualifications, the adequacy of staff resources, understanding of the work to be done, and previous applicable experience. And based on the evaluation, we chose 3 consulting firms to interview. So on December 8th, that same group of reviewers, along with Lori Urbanik, our Deputy Director of Engineering Resources, met and conducted in-person interviews and made a final selection. So based on those interviews, Woodard & Kern, it was concluded that Woodard & Kern is the most qualified proposer. Their interview was very impressive and stood out for several reasons. They had very strong technical expertise. They're experts in the field of storm drain infrastructure evaluation. Their modeling team includes ESA, who is doing the city's doing the modeling for the Santa Rosa Creek flood study and regulatory floodway, which we will be back to tell you more about soon. So they already have an understanding of the city's system, waterways, and current models. We liked their approach to funding strategies. They showed a really nuanced understanding of the city's need to identify funding resources, and they demonstrated how they've used a storm drain master plan specifically to get public support for funding. We loved their approach to communication with the public outreach specialist they brought to the interview. That person was outstanding, and their presentation and proposal both really showed something that was important to us, which was an ability to convey complex technical information in a way that's digestible to the public. It needs to be able to be robust, but a person who's not a storm drain engineer needs to be able to understand it, because that's who we're looking for support. And then they also showed excellent communication with city staff. They showed leadership and ability to drive the project forward, and a responsiveness to our questions. So in terms of contract funding and timeline, the Stormwater and Creeks team has been saving for this project for several years, applying for several grants. In December of last year, we were thrilled to be awarded $500,000 of community development block grant funding to develop the plan. And then in addition, we have saved about $1.1 million in stormwater assessment funding, and then funds from the Southeast Area Development Impact fees. So with this and the contract, we anticipate being able to complete the plan by July of 2025. So after going through this process, we feel that the award of this professional services agreement is in the best interest of the city, and it is recommended by the Contract Review Subcommittee and Water Department that the Board of Public Utilities approve a professional services agreement with Woodard & Kern, Inc. of San Francisco, California, to develop a storm drain master plan in the amount of $1,574,204. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Myers. Now I'll open it up for board member questions or comments. As was stated, this matter did come before the Contract Review Subcommittee on January 25th and received a unanimous recommendation to the full board. So any other board member questions or comments? Board Member Watts?
It's very exciting you were able to get that grant and get the funds to work on this project. It seems like this will be a really good match, especially with the company that was selected. One thing that I had a question on, this is a very elementary question. I am not a stormwater engineer. So earlier on in this recent batch of storms that we had kind of last year, and remember our street had tons of leaves, and my husband was going out cleaning up the leaves in the front area. We were one of the only houses on our street to do that. And it made me realize our street cleaning does not occur often in our neighborhood, and it doesn't actually, the cars aren't actually moved to get street cleaning. And so when I was looking at some of these pictures and just the aging infrastructure map as well, it just made me kind of think about the fact that is this coordination not happening with like some of these elements that are probably causing some of these floodings. And I'm assuming that this type of plan is probably one thing to look at for that, but someone who's just an average person in the community, I think just connecting those dots and being able to understand how it's connected to our larger system and issues that we're seeing in our infrastructure is really important. And I think that this is a positive way moving forward for that, but just someone who's just a regular homeowner, it was something that I noticed this last year for the first time, being a first-time homeowner. So I think that that's something that looking at this proposal, I'm sure we'll be excited to see some work in that area.
Yeah, I agree. That's something that's important to our team, is getting that messaging out about leaves in the system and what it does. And then the plan will look at operations and maintenance of existing infrastructure and exactly those issues that you're talking about.
Thank you for your presentation. I appreciate your diligence in the RFP process. It's good to hear that we had 6 respondents and that interviews were held with 3. I think that the proposal and the project outline looks great, and I'm excited to kind of get into this as our first foray. But because it's our first foray into it, I see that in the rollout that there's a plan for 2 BPU meetings and 2+ city council meetings. And I think that's something, especially because it's our first venture into this, that it would help me at least, and that I would very much welcome more than 2 updates along the way. Oftentimes what happens is, especially for us non-engineers on the board, that oftentimes we see that the next meeting we have, a draft proposal will be brought forward, and then we have to make a decision really, really, really soon after that, or then we end up sometimes with a project complication on the council's end. And so whether it's through staff, I'm certainly not requesting that that the proposal be amended to include more meetings, but just Director Burke's decision on how those updates can kind of come back along the way. It would help me, I know, and I would appreciate it. So, thank you.
Absolutely.
And Board Member Badenfort, thank you for that comment. We'll definitely take that into consideration and figure out the best way to bring you updates. We are planning to bring quite a number of updates on the Stormwater and Creeks team forward to the board to help get you all educated. So you'll see a lot of it, but I will work with Ms. Myers and we'll figure out the best way that we can also bring periodic updates on the master plan development to you all before it's finalized.
Board Member Bartholow.
Thank you, and thank you for the excellent presentation. My question is around the annexation of the Moreland area and the county pockets. Are those areas included in the proposal that was made and the amount that was budgeted for, or will that be added in later? Is that something that there will need to be a new RFP for if it indeed happens?
Yeah, that's a great question. They are not included in this RFP or the current plan, and depending on what is annexed and when, we would need to do an additional or an addendum to this storm drain master plan for those areas.
Board Member Walsh.
Yes, I wanted to thank Claire Myers for putting together the presentation. It's thorough, understandable, and welcome aboard. I think the stormwater and function and the treatment plant have a lot of affinity, and coordinating those makes a lot of sense. And also for focusing on understandability when you selected the contractor, I appreciate that as well. And then I'm also thankful for Member Bartholow's comment that if we look forward, we may need to expand the scope of the project. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Any other board member questions or comments? All right, I'll entertain a motion.
I'd like to make a motion. I move that the, I'll find the presentation, sorry. I move that the Board of Public Utilities approve a professional services agreement with Woodard and Curran Incorporated of San Francisco, California to develop a storm drain master plan in the amount of $1,574,204.
Second. A second.
We have a motion by Board Member Walsh, seconded by Board Member Badenfort. Now open it up for public comment on items 9.2. If you wish to make a comment via Zoom, please raise your hand. If you're dialing in via telephone, please dial *9 to raise your hand. Secretary Manis?
There are no hands being raised via Zoom for public comment and no public comments from council chamber.
All right, may we have a roll call vote, please?
Certainly. Board Member Watts?
Aye.
Board Member Walsh?
Aye.
Board Member Bartholow?
Aye.
Board Member Badenfort?
Aye.
Vice Chair Arnone?
Aye.
Chair Galvin?
Aye.
Let the record show that this motion passes with 6 affirmative votes and Board Member Wright absent.
Very good. That'll take care of item 9.2. Thank you again for the presentation. We'll now move to item 10, which is public comment on non-agenda matters. We'll now take public comments on item 10. If you wish to make a comment via Zoom, please raise your hand. If you're dialing in via telephone, please dial *9 to raise your hand. Secretary Manis?
There are no hands being raised via Zoom and no public comments from council chamber.
Thank you. We have no referrals. We have no written communications. We do have one subcommittee report that I'm aware of because I'm going to give it, and that's the Contract Review Subcommittee met on January 25th. We reviewed 3 agreements and recommended all 3 unanimously to the full board. All 3 of them were on the agenda today. First was the cooperative agreement between the city and Sonoma Water. The second was the professional services agreement with Woodard and Curran. And the third was the proposed amendment to the meter upgrade project. So, any other subcommittee reports? All right, we'll now take public comment on item 13. If you wish to make a comment via Zoom, please raise your hand. If you're dialing in via telephone, please dial *9 to raise your hand. Secretary Manis?
There are no hands being raised via Zoom and no public comments from council chamber.
Thank you. Any board member reports? Item number 14. All right, we'll move then to item 15, which is the director's report. Director Burke?
Thank you, Chair Galvin and members of the board. I have a few things to report to the board today. First, since we are bringing you new stormwater information, I wanted to share some good news with you. The California Department of Water Resources recently informed the city that they are conditionally awarding Santa Rosa and the Laguna de Santa Rosa Foundation a grant of over $4.3 million for the Lower Colgan Creek Restoration Project Phase 3. And this funding will be put towards design, construction, mitigation, and public outreach for the project. We're really excited about this because Phase 3 will link two previous restoration areas together so that we'll have a continuous riparian habitat enhancement area totaling 23 acres and extending 1.3 miles along the creek, also allowing us to restore the natural ecological value of Lower Colgan Creek as a critical part of the Laguna de Santa Rosa and Russian River watersheds. The project will also help prevent future property damage by upgrading the creek from a 25-year to a 100-year flood capacity and expand community involvement, education, and riverine stewardship through programs for project-based learning, community art, and hands-on volunteerism. So we are very excited about this, and we should be getting an actual grant agreement from the state very soon. I also wanted to let the board know that we have begun our process for budget preparation for the water department. And so we will be looking to schedule budget subcommittees very soon. Once we know who is going to be appointed chair for this board, we'll work on getting subcommittee assignments through the chair and get a number of those meetings scheduled. And as a reminder that this year, with the change in the charter, not only will the BPU be reviewing and considering a recommendation for our 3 enterprise funds that you normally see, water, sewer, and regional, you'll also be getting the stormwater budget for review and recommendation as well. We anticipate that we will be bringing a study session to you in your first meeting in April and a recommendation at your second meeting in April. Wanted to also let the board know that we have ceased discharging at the moment. We started, I believe, on January 13th, and we had a total of 86.9 million gallons of tertiary treated recycled water that was discharged from Delta Pond. The discharge stopped last week on January 26th. During the discharge, we were able to calibrate our discharge compliance model, which we are required to do once every 5 years. And with the upcoming storm, we are looking to see if we may also do a small discharge to calibrate our model for Meadow Lane and still help us reduce some storage, as we are just about 1.2 billion gallons in storage, which is quite high for us at this time. And then last, I wanted to let the board know, I'm going to end with good news, actually great news as well. On January 26th, our laboratory supervisor, Robert Wilson, was awarded the Supervisor of the Year Award from the California Water Environment Association Redwood Empire chapter, pardon me. CWEA empowers wastewater professionals as they protect California's most critical resource, which is water. It was founded in 1928 and unites over 10,000 professionals throughout California to address real-time issues, develop and deliver cutting-edge training, raise awareness of the profession, and shape the future of wastewater management and resource recovery. Santa Rosa Water is a member of CWEA, and we participate in the local Redwood Empire chapter. And each year, the chapter recognizes leaders from agencies with various awards. And again, Robert Wilson was awarded the Supervisor of the Year Award, which recognizes successful mentoring of team members, professional development, and effective communication. So we are very proud of Robert, and just wanted to share that good news with the board. And that's my report, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Open up for any board member questions or comments. Hearing none, we'll open it up for public comments on item number 15. If you wish to make a comment via Zoom, please raise your hand. If you're dialing in via telephone, please dial *9 to raise your hand. Secretary Manis?
There are no hands being raised via Zoom and no public comments from council chamber.
Thank you. That concludes our agenda for today. I'd like to adjourn our meeting today in honor of former board member Chris Grable for his many years of service, not only to the community, but to his 6 years of service to the Board of Public Utilities and Santa Rosa Water. So we are adjourned in his honor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.